Friends, it's Terri Gaines, independent demonstrator with Stampin Up. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share several cards I created with the heart-shaped bundle. This bundle is free with a $120 purchase during Sale-A-Bration. Sale-A-Bration ends February 28th. And in the bundle, you're going to get a stamp set that has 8 images, and then dies. You have the 6 different dies. I have created several cards, and what I've been doing is cutting everything out with the white cardstock and coloring them in with blends. I do have some stamping I do on part of it also. And when I'm done with my tutorial showing you the card I'm going to create, I have several cards, additional cards that I've created. So I'm excited to share all of that with you. I'm going to give you all the details so you can duplicate this project or any of the projects I'm sharing in this tutorial. So I'm going to start out by showing you how I die cut the images and how I color them in with blends, get all the images all ready to go, and then we'll talk about the card base and all of that detail. So with the fine details like this, I like to use the adhesive sheets. The adhesive sheets are sold. There's 12 in the package. They're 6 inches by 12 inches. So what I did ahead of time is I cut one to be 4 inches. So I just cut it here, stick the other piece back in here, because you can use any small scrap pieces of your adhesive sheets are going to be of use. Then what I did is I cut my basic white cardstock to be the very same size. Now what I'm going to do is peel off one of these backings. There's 2-inch strips here of these backings, and then I'm going to attach it to one side of the cardstock. This cardstock, both sides are identical. If you're putting it on like a gold foil sheet, put it on the back side because you're going to cut from the front. So how I like to attach these is I like to take my Simply Scoring tool because it has a wall here. And what I do is I peel off just one of these 2-inch panels, and sometimes it's a little tricky to get it started. So then I just try a different corner, and there we go. And sometimes your Simply Scoring or your Take Your Pick tool will help too. So I'm going to peel off just one of these panels here. And the reason I leave the other 2 on, it helps me with the alignment. So this one is exposed right here, backing is still on those. Then I push this into the corner. You do need to hold on to it. Then I take my cardstock, put that up against this wall, push it against that wall, and then work with it and just bend it down to adhere it onto that adhesive that's exposed. Then it is important to remember to take these 2 backing pieces off, and sometimes you could easily forget to do that. I guess I'm talking from experience. I did that one time and that did not work out good. You want to make sure you adhere this. If you forget to do it when you die cut it, then you have 2 separate pieces and it defeated the purpose of the adhesive sheet. So be sure you peel off both of those and then adhere that. So that's what you want to do for that. So then how this works is you could place this right here. You can place several of these on there at the same time, run them through, you die cut those, and I'll actually run it through, but I'm going to prep something else first. And then you have the adhesive sheet on the back. Now this is our adhesive sheet. We also sell the adhesive foam adhesive sheets. And here you get 6 of these, and what they are they're identical basically to what I just showed with you, but they have a foam in the middle. So there's adhesive backing on this side and adhesive on this side. So how this one works is the same. These are about 4.5 inches by 4 1/4. You cut your cardstock the very same size, and then you peel off one side. So I'm going to peel off the entire thing. I'm still going to use this for the corner. I think that works out good. Then you can hold that in the corner, push this against the wall without touching the foam, push it against that corner, and then attach that. So this is foam. This goes through your die cutting machine. You die cut your piece, and then this is the backing. So let me show you how that all works. So we're going to die cut this piece out of here And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to die cut just a few of these pieces. So I'm also going to show you, so let me get my die cutting machine in here, at least my platform, and then I'll bring the tool in. So with this, you need platform 1, plate 2, and then you're going to have your clear plates, and there's a little diagram that shows you like that. So then you want to put this on here. Now I like to hold these with Post-it notes. I found these clear Post-it notes at the Dollar Tree, and there's 100 of the sheets. What I do is I just cut up, you know, into sections here. Then I can pull just a section of that off, and I'm going to hold both of these down with the Post-it note, because then I can cut 2 at a time. So I have that, and you top it off with another plate number 3. I'm going to bring my die cutting machine in the picture here, and I'm going to run it through, and then I'm going to back it up. So what I have here now is these are cut out, and I have adhesive sheet. So I can continue to use this until I use up that whole piece. So now I have adhesive sheets on the back of that. I have my die cut pieces. Now with this foam adhesive one, it's the very same thing. You use the same setup. I am going to hold it down with a clear Post-it note. Now you can keep reusing your Post-it notes. I just put them on my machine here. Then they're handy. You just use them until the stickiness is gone. Now this is going to work the very same way. Use the same platform, and the machine is going to squeeze that foam, and just a little bit tighter going through, and I'm going to go through a couple times. And sometimes with a situation like this, what I also like to do is just look at the bottom, and you know what? I think it cut out really well. It cut all the way through, so I'm good. Sometimes you can just see what's happening here, and sometimes it's even a good idea to run it through this direction, oops, and get it to cut out really, really well. So I think we're good. So let me get my machine out of the camera here, and then we can look at our results, what we got here. All right, so we have these 2 pieces cut, and your take your pick tool will help you get them separated. So I'm just going to take my flower out, and then I'm going to take this out. Now they have adhesive sheet behind them. So that means that when you attach this flower, you're going to put it down with the adhesive sheet is right back here. Let me show you. So when you peel this off, you have adhesive sheet right back there. It's already sticky there. All right. So I will tell you, all the flowers I pre-cut out, I did not use adhesive sheet on there, but all of these pieces I cut out ahead of time, I did. Now let me show you how I'm going to color these in. So I'm going to bring in my grid paper here, and they're hard to pick up, they're so thin. So I'm going to set this here, and I'm going to color in these first. I'm going to show you how I color these in. So what I like to do is, depending on the color theme I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to use the light color for the flower first. I'm going to just color in the entire flower portion with the light color, because I want my flowers to be a lighter shade. And then what you can do is just accent those with a little bit of darker color. So I'm going to bring in the dark Pretty in Pink. And if I forgot to tell you, this is light Pretty in Pink and the dark Pretty in Pink. You get the combo. When you purchase the Stampin' Blends, you get both the light and the dark. And I also have the Granny Apple Green. I have the light and the dark. Well, I'm going to go with the dark. I want the contrast to be really dark for the green. So I'm going to color in the leaves and the stems with the dark Granny Apple Green. Now, when I work with the blends, I like to just barely touch the cardstock. It flows really easily. You want to keep these brush tips the best condition they are. If you push really hard, you're going to distort it. You just really need to touch it real lightly. So once I color in the leaves, I'm going to just take the blend and then just go down the stem. So I'm going to move that. Can you see? That's how I've colored that in. So for this particular project, I'm going to show you this card. I need 4 of these, and I have them all done ahead of time right here. So I did that work ahead of time. So that's all ready. And as I mentioned, I cut these out without the adhesive sheet, and I'm going to color them in with the light Pretty in Pink. So what I do, the same thing, just barely touch the cardstock. I always tell people, if you have to push so hard that you're hearing that scratching sound with your blend, that kind of is a sign, one, you might be pushing too hard, but if you have to push that hard to get the ink to flow, that's a sign that maybe you need to think about getting a new blend. And they do come in the pack, light and dark. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the dark on there just to get a little contrast there. Now, I will advise you, I put these on with mini glue dots. When you work with this, it soaks through to the back side of the papers. These have to dry, otherwise your mini glue dots don't like to stick to them. So I have those done ahead of time too, and I already placed them on mini glue dots, and I need 5 of them for this project, and I need 4 of those. So that part's already done. Now to what everybody's probably been waiting for, the foam adhesive. You see how we cut that out and then just popped back to be the shape. We're going to try to get this out in one piece. And most of the time when I do these, that backing for the greenery part comes off. And I don't worry about it if it does. If it does, then what I do is I bring my silicone craft mat in. So if it did come off, then I would, and it might still come off, because what we need to do is separate these. So you can see that wreath, that heart wreath, cut out the greenery, and then you've got this inside piece. We're going to work with both of these. All the card samples I have to share, I've worked with these together. So what I want to do is separate them. So I'm carefully trying to keep that backing on the wreath. Now, if it does come off, I would not worry about it, because I just put it on my silicone craft mat, and it appears that I'm going to be able to get this to come off. Well, you know what? If I didn't worry about the backing, it would come off much easier. Let's just take it off and not worry about the backing. And here. All right, because I'm going to just set it right here on my silicone craft mat. That's just going to work out perfect. And then it still has this greenery part on, and we have that. So just like I colored in those greenery pieces, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this, I'm actually, as I mentioned, I'm going to use the dark. So I just color this in, and just real lightly color it all in, and just go through the whole thing. And then when I get all that colored in, then I come back and I go just up the stem a couple times. That's going to darken just the stem. So real lightly color these in. And just, when I say lightly, softly maybe is a better word for that, because we just want to softly color that in. So to save some video time, I do have that done ahead of time. So I'm going to bring this one in. I've done that ahead of time. So I'm going to just show you that I did that ahead of time. And it's also on that adhesive foam sheet. Now let's work with this piece. What I'm going to do with this piece, I'm going to bring in a stamp set. This is one of the online exclusive stamp sets. It's called Elements of Text. And there's 5 different stamps. You've got 3 of them with text and 2 with just a background. So I already have that on a block, and I'm going to work with this one. I'm going to work with that one upside down. I'm going to be taking Smoky Slate ink, and I'm going to ink this up. So I'm going to just work with that right like this. Kind of consider it a background stamp. Tap, tap, tap the ink on. I just want it on the surface of this stamped image, or the surface of the stamp. Then I'm going to take this, turn it. This is the right side. I'm going to turn it upside down. Now, you know what? Before we go any further, we got to make sure we got the writing the right direction. I don't want to stamp it upside down. So the best way to do is look at the bottom one is got an I and down there. So this is the bottom. You want to make sure that you have the text reading the right way. So I'm going to tap, tap, tap that ink on again. Just make sure it's just lightly tapped on there. I have a scratch paper ready. Now, this is the right side, so I'm going to just set this down right on the stamp. I don't want it to move. I'm going to then just take lightly, put some pressure here, and put some pressure there to get a good image. Peel that off. Now I've got the text that's going to be on the inside of that heart wreath. So now we have that part done. I'm going to move the stamp. I'll clean that when I'm all done. Now you also have this label die in the die set. And for this particular card, I am going to use the sentiment, that's one of the sentiments that is in the stamp set. I'm going to use thank you, but this banner is really large for that. So what I'm going to do is just use part of it. And I did that prep work ahead of time. I actually did cut it out of that foam adhesive sheet, and I stamped the thank you with the Smoky Slate on that ahead of time. So we have all of our pieces, all of our decorative elements ready. Now I'm going to be showing you other cards that I made. I did all the prep work the very same way. I also included some of this greenery dye, and I colored them the same way. Every card has this on, every card has flowers on, and that's how I prepped all of those. So let's bring in the card base. Now I'm going to use basic white, and actually the basic white is the only color cardstock I've used because we've colored all the white in with blends. So that means that you could duplicate these cards and use different color blends to get a whole different look. The designer series paper I'm going to use is the Country Woods 12 by 12 paper, and I'm going to use just this print. Now you can use any designer series paper print, and I'm actually going to show you some additional samples using a different prints. So a lot of details to this, so bear with me. So for the designer series paper, I have that cut already, but I want to share a little bit more detail about why I picked this particular size for the cardstock. I have a card sketch booklet that I offer free with a qualifying order, and it has 131 card sketches in here. So what I do when I'm using a card sketches, I usually start out with knowing what stamped image I'm going to work with. So I'm going to be working with this stamped image. So then I look at my card sketch booklet and say, what options would work great for that? With a card sketch, whether the decorative image is shown in an oval shape or a circle shape or a rectangle, it can be any size. The card bases are 8.5 by 5.5. And then all of the layers are shown here for measurements. But the beauty of a card sketch, you can change up the layers. You can make them smaller, larger. If it shows one layer, you can add multiple layers. You can use designer series paper, you can use stamped cardstock, you can use texturized cardstock. You have so many options. So for the card I'm going to show you, there's so many. I'm going to show you a few additional ones, but I'm going to be working with card sketch 7. So I'm looking at this card sketch, And I have 4 others that I'm showing you afterwards. But when I looked at this, that's why I determined this piece to be 2 by 5.5 to go on my card base. Now it also has a 1/2 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock or layer, and then also has a 3 by 2 3/4 layer. So I'm going to be working with this for my card. So I apologize, I'm going back and forth. I want to kind of keep this in the camera view. Let's see if I can do that. I'm going to put my light leg on there so I can keep this in the camera view so you can see how I'm working with this card sketch. So my card base, I'm going to fold this in half and take my bone folder and crease it. And we talked about the card layer. This Designer Series paper layer is 2 by 5.5. It's going to go right like this. I'm going to use my adhesive sheet. Oh goodness. I'm using my Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to adhere it to the edge of the card base. So what I'm going to do is push it up against the wall, because this layer is 5.5 and my card base layer is 5.5. And if I want it flush here, I can push it up against the wall. And if it needs to be trimmed off, you can take a paper trimmer and trim it. But I'm going to say it's good to go. So then, as I mentioned, there's a 1/2 inch by 5.5. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use these images to be a substitute for this. So I'm using this card sketch, but I'm going to actually take these images and put those down. So what I'm going to do is start out with putting the top one and the bottom one down. I'm going to take the backing off. I told you that we put an adhesive sheet on these, so you can peel that backing off. Now this has adhesive on it. This strip, 1/2 inch strip, is fairly close to this edge. I'm not going to put it as close as the picture is, because it's going to angle a little bit like that. You can kind of see I put that one down, and then I'm going to put the one up at the top. I'm going to start with that and work to the middle. So what you do is take your pick tool and get that backing to start. So I'm going to put this one right here. Now we have 2 more. One's going to go here and one's going to go here. Okay, so when I put those down, they're going to overlap. Those are going to overlap a little bit, and these overlap. I actually don't want them to overlap, so they are overlapping of a little more than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to bring my paper snips in and just snip that amount off. Take the backing off, and then I'm going to, I'll bring it closer to the camera. And then I'm gonna meet that up and have that go like that. I'm gonna trim this one off. And trim this one off. Peel that backing off. And then I'm gonna match this one up. And actually I'm gonna match that up a little bit more. There we go. So we have those. Now I am going to camouflage that intersection by putting one of these flowers down. So I have this one, already has a pearl on it. I'm gonna put that one down right at that intersection. And then I'm going to put this one down right at that intersection. So I substituted that strip of paper with a decorative element. Now for this section, it says you have a 3 by 2 3/4. You can change up that layer. I'm actually going to just put this image down. We're going to even take that off, and we're just going to put the decorative image down. Now this is already stamped. You have this adhesive backing you can peel off, and I start by putting this piece down first. So it's up a little bit, and that's good. I'm going to put it up about right here and place that down. Now, whether you're working with this heart with the foam adhesive or the regular adhesive, this next step, I do the same for either one. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to set it down, and it's like a puzzle now. Start with one leaf at a time. Just put one leaf in there at a time. And that way, as you work around, you can get that to form right into it like a puzzle. It does get distorted when you take it apart, so that's why you just need to work with it one leaf at a time to get it to fit back into this puzzle. And you do need to be a little careful. And my videos are unedited. This is you know, first time through. Not very often do I stop and start over, and I almost did earlier. I paused a little bit, like I felt I needed to start over, but if I was in person and we were working with this at a class or at a workshop or a stamp party, we would not be starting over. You go with it. So isn't that beautiful how that adds that greenery to it? Like I said, that was white cardstock. We stamped this part. I added the color with the blend, but you do want to make sure you burnish these. You want to make sure you burnish them, that they stay adhered. It's just like any adhesive. It needs to make a good bond to stay in place. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to take these flowers and decorate this wreath. I call it a wreath because I think that's the right thing to call it. It is a greenery wreath in a heart shape. And I'm going to put 3 flowers here. And I'm going to offset them just right on here. And then I'm going to add some of those pearls. Let's see, where did I put those? I had them over here. Now, I already put the pearls on those other 2 ahead of time. This time, I'm going to use my Take Your Pick putty tool. I work with it off the thing. I just like to hold it on like this and pick up these little pearls, and they work good to pick that up. And I don't think I got that on there straight, but we'll say it's okay. I had to take a better look at. All right, so we added some pearls there. So that's basically how I'm going to redo this card sketch. And then I'm not putting a bow on it. It does not have a sentiment, but I am going to add this sentiment. I showed you already that I cut this out of the foam sheet. I have it flat on this side because there's too much white space. So I'm going to put it flush right here against that edge, and that's going to be a thank you card. I just love how that greenery and those flowers are. Now, I mentioned I have some more samples to share with you, so let me show you how those cards turned out. So I'm going to share with you, I also use card sketches for those. I have, the first one I have is card sketch 12, and almost every one of these card sketches would work out. This is the card sketch, and I wanted to replace this strip with those flowers. So when I put those down, they were a bit too high, so I moved the sentiment below and added a flower here. That just shows you that you can change that up. So that's card sketch 12. I also made a card with card sketch 19, and that's this one right here. So that one's, I pretty much followed the instructions here. My designer series paper is 5.5 by 1.5. I have my sentiment and my decorative image. So I liked how that turned out, just nice and simple. Now this congratulations that I'm using works great for the banner, and that is from the Loveliest Tree stamp set that's in the annual catalog. I use that congrats for that card. Now I also use card sketch 22. It's on the same page. I use this one. Now I'm going to tell you that you could do something different. I followed the instructions here, or the card sketch, and I cut my designer series paper to be 4.25 by 4.25. You could cut it to 4 by 4, have some white space just to save, and no bow. That's optional anyway, but I use the sentiment, and I have that very same. So I use the very same products for all of these. And the last card I have sample to share with you is Card Sketch 103. And that one is this one right here. It has a few more layers on it. And I did the same thing that I did earlier, is I replaced one of the strips with those flowers. And then once I put everything down, I just decided where I wanted the sentiment to go. I did not want to cover up that, so I just placed it a little bit higher. Now the beauty of this is you can take these samples, do the very same thing, but change up the color of your cardstock. So I recreated the very same cards, but I used the Unbound Beauty Designer Series paper, and I used the light Granny Apple Green and the dark Pretty in Pink. So I basically created these same cards using different Designer Series paper, but the same product. And I will want to share one more card with you. A few weeks ago, I did a sneak peek of the Sale-A-Bration product, and this is the card that I shared in that video tutorial. I did not show you how to put it together, but it was just my sneak peek sample. So this was my inspiration to pick my color choices. So these are several cards created with the heart-shaped bundle. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you like the PDFs, free PDFs that I offer, I do have a PDF that's going to give you a picture of the sample that I just showed you and the 5 card sketches that I used. The photo of the card I just created will go here. This will be a link to this video. So if you save the PDF, click on this YouTube link, you'll get to this video tutorial so you can rewatch it if you have any tips that you want to rewatch on how I put these together. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Again, my videos are unedited. I'm not a professional at this, and if you like my free PDFs, I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, to like my videos, to watch my videos, and I appreciate you, everybody who does. So if you have any questions, reach out. Take care and happy creating.